Hello and welcome. I've tried to do some nice lighting here so I look more professional. I bought the cheapest LED lights on Amazon, and in hindsight I think that could have been a mistake because I look a little bit haunted, but I'll figure it out again. This is going to be my first guitar tutorial. A lot of people on my Instagram have been asking me to show a couple of guitar things. So I said I would do that. This first one is just going to be about 3 of my favourite alternate tunings to play in and why I like them. And then I'm going to give a couple of tips as well for playing in alternate tunings and sort of, finding and making your own cool stuff on them. What this video is not going to be is me sitting down for 20 minutes showing you all the chord shapes I know in every tuning. I can do another video sort of like that if you'd like, but I just kind of want to give you a couple of tips for getting started, because I think one of the primary advantages to playing in an alternate tuning is sort of that feeling of being lost and not really knowing what you're going to play. I think when you're playing in a tuning that you really understand, like standard tuning, it can be tempting to just try and play in a scale all the time, or try and play this chord, try and play that chord. When you're in an alternate tuning, you tend to just follow your ear and go, oh, that sounds good, that sounds kind of cool. So I kind of wanted to just try and inspire you to do a bit of that. So one of the first tunings that I want to talk about is drop D. And the reason that I want to talk about drop D, because a lot of people have already played in drop D. The main reason I want to talk about it is because I feel like a lot of the time people think drop D is for chugging and riffs and metal, and in reality it's quite a lovely tuning to play in for more melodic stuff as well. So I think one of the main advantages to drop D as opposed to other tunings is that a lot of the stuff still kind of stays the same. So you're not like in a tuning where you're like, I can't even play a single chord. Most of your chords are the same. You can play a D, normally like you would play a D, a C, all your various C's stay the same. And if you're playing a D, you get that nice beefy D note, that nice beefy low D note down here. But one of the things that's cool about drop D is it kind of puts you out of sorts when you come to chords like G. So like G, you can't play it like this anymore, because this is now an F, not a G. So that sounds shit. So to get a G note, you have to come up here to the 5th fret. It's no longer an A, it's now a G, because we've dropped the tuning. And what this allows you to do is it allows you to voice chords differently to how you might do them. So instead of coming and playing a G like this, now you have to come and sort of play it like this or like this. So yeah, there are some advantages to being in a different place to play your G. You're just in a different position. Different hammer-ons kind of make sense. Kind of sounds different. You can come up here and maybe experiment with playing sort of a barred G like this, and just find some pretty chords that you wouldn't otherwise use. The other thing I really like about drop D is when you're playing these kind of octave shapes on the lower strings, or you're playing even power chord shapes, the intervals that you're getting are super wide. So you can get these lovely intervals and just nice little simple 2-note chords. And it just puts you in a different sort of mindset to what you would be in if you're playing in standard tuning. So yeah, that's drop D, and the big takeaway from drop D, the big tip for drop D is just try and slightly change up things that you already know how to do. Slightly different ways of playing chords, slightly different ways of playing scales, and you'll find you end up doing stuff that's a little bit different to what you're doing in standard tuning. So the second tuning, and probably my favorite tuning of all time, is D, A, D, E, A, and E. So this is, I suppose, slightly similar to one of the more popular tunings, which is Dadgad. This gives us an open D sus2 chord. And to me, D sus2 sounds sort of major, sort of happy, but it also has kind of a melancholy, nostalgic kind of a sound to it. The primary reason that I like this tuning is it gives you the opportunity to get really nice intervals with really nice simple chord shapes. So for instance, on the 2nd fret here, the 2nd and 4th fret, you can pretty much play the whole way up hammer-ons and pull-offs on the 2nd and 4th fret, and it pretty much all works. So it's a really nice way when you're playing in this tuning to play really simple progressions and add in really nice little hammer-ons and pull-offs to spice things up a bit. It's not hard at all. It doesn't have to be fast. You can do really slow stuff. And it just instantly makes you sound like you're good on the guitar, even though it's not that complicated. So my primary tip to go along with this tuning is to use a capo. And the reason that you might want to use a capo, other than to bring the key up, that's a good reason to use a capo as well. But if you struggle with these hammer-on and pull-off type things, putting a capo on, especially if your guitar isn't set up perfectly, will bring the action down. So the strings are going to be a lot closer, especially if you're playing in this kind of open position here, sort of up to the 4th or 5th fret. The strings are going to be a lot closer to the fretboard. And it's going to make it a lot easier for you to do these hammer-ons and pull-offs, especially if you haven't got the finger strength to do those really. Or even if you do have the finger strength to do it, if you're playing and singing with this stuff, it can make it a lot easier when you don't have to focus so much on pushing down for those hammer-ons and pull-offs. And then once you get sort of more used to it, you know, you can come down and do all that stuff and just transfer it to the open positions. Especially if your guitar is set up well, it's going to be a lot easier to do that stuff. And the final tuning that I wanted to talk about here is FAC GCE. So basically this tuning is giving you basically like an F major 7, and then you've got that G in there, that ninth, that kind of makes it a bit more melancholy and a bit kind of sadder. This is the tuning that I most associate with math rock or Midwest emo, or you know, it's got kind of a naturally pop punky sort of a sound to it. And the tip that I want to give you to go along with this tuning is to find really simple shapes. You know, even if it's just, this guitar isn't tuned to that tuning, but even if it's just, you know, 1 or 2 notes that you can find that go together, that you can play against the open strings, until you get used to the tuning and just sort of move these simple shapes or these simple intervals up and down. And then, you know, while you're playing open strings, maybe you're playing the open bass note, the open F, or you're, you know, ringing out the bottom two open strings, just try and find little bits of scales throughout. Without going and looking it all up, I think one of the best things to do is just to mess around and sort of find things that sound nice. So I'm going to show you an example of basically me doing that. Just playing around, not really thinking about what I'm doing, and just really simply hitting stuff and trying to find nice little melodies and stuff like that. And that I think is the best way to find your own sort of voice in a tuning, or to find sort of what you like about it or what it brings out in your playing before you go and look up, you know, what other people have figured out, what the chord shapes are. I think it's really nice just to sit down and just do simple stuff and find little parts that you like. Okay, so that was my first guitar tutorial here on YouTube. Smash like, smash subscribe, share it with your auntie, all of that stuff. It was probably shit, because it's my first one. And I know I look a bit like a ghost because I bought the cheap lights off Amazon. But hopefully you got something out of it. Hopefully I inspired you to try one of these tunings and to, you know, not be so analytical about it. Just have a go, find stuff that sounds cool. And yeah. Did I say smash like? Smash like.